You could lose your head. An Eerie Tale. It was a moonless night, and Jason was behind the wheel, his vision blurred and his mind clouded by the alcohol he had consumed earlier. The winding road was treacherous, but Jason, reckless and intoxicated, paid no heed. As he rounded a sharp curve, a pair of headlights suddenly appeared, heading straight toward him. In a panic, Jason swerved wildly, forcing the other car off the road. The last thing he saw was the vehicle teetering on the edge of a cliff before disappearing into the darkness with a sickening crash. Jason's heart pounded as he realized what he had done. The other driver was gone, and he was to blame. But he was drunk, and if anyone found out, it would ruin him. Overcome with fear, he slammed on the gas and sped away, leaving the wreckage and its unknown victim behind. The following morning, Jason awoke with a pounding headache, the events of the previous night a hazy blur. He stumbled into his living room, turned on the TV, and poured himself a glass of water. As he nursed his hangover, the news played in the background. A report caught his attention. Late last night, a tragic accident occurred on Old Mill Road. The driver, who has yet to be identified, lost control of his vehicle and plummeted off a cliff. Authorities found the body this morning. Disturbingly, the victim's head was separated from the body in the crash. Jason's blood ran cold. The memory of the crash flooded back to him. The other car flying off the cliff, the sickening crunch of metal. He tried to shake it off, telling himself it was just a coincidence, but guilt gnawed at him, a creeping sense of dread settling in his stomach. Later that night, Jason returned home after a long day, exhausted and frazzled. As he entered his dimly lit house, a strange unease washed over him. He flipped on the kitchen light and froze. There, on the dining table, sat a severed head, bloodied and battered, staring directly at him. Jason stumbled back in horror, rubbing his eyes, convinced he was hallucinating. It had to be the alcohol, his mind playing tricks on him. But the head didn't disappear. Its vacant, lifeless eyes seemed to bore into his soul. Then, in a voice that chilled him to the bone, the head spoke. "Confess, Jason. You can't run from this." Jason screamed, backing into the wall. He desperately tried to convince himself it was all in his head. "I've had too much to drink," he muttered, trembling. Stumbling into the living room, he collapsed on the couch, where exhaustion finally took over, and he passed out. The next day, Jason tried to go about his routine, but the image of the severed head lingered in his mind, an inescapable nightmare. After work, he headed to the bar, desperate to drown his guilt and fear in alcohol. He drank heavily, hoping to numb the terror that had taken root in his soul. But as he finished his third drink, a chill crept up his spine. Glancing around the dimly lit bar, his eyes narrowed. In the corner, at a small table, sat a headless figure, blood still dripping from its neck, the body slumped unnaturally. Jason's heart pounded as he realized the figure was staring directly at him, even without a head. Panicked, Jason threw down some cash and bolted out of the bar, almost tripping over his own feet. He raced to his car, fumbled with the keys, and started the engine, his hands shaking uncontrollably. As he drove, paranoia gripped him. Every shadow, every flicker of light seemed like a threat. His vision was distorted, and the alcohol did nothing to help. Glancing in the rearview mirror, he half expected to see the headless figure chasing him. Then, as he turned his eyes back to the road, he saw it. The severed head on his dashboard, its lifeless eyes staring up at him. "Confess, Jason," it whispered again, the voice hissing like a snake. "You can't escape." Jason screamed, slamming his foot on the accelerator, driving faster, trying to outrun the nightmare. But the head remained, unwavering, taunting him. Fear consumed him, and in his panic, he lost control of the car. The vehicle swerved violently, tires screeching as it careened off the road. The car crashed through the guardrail, plummeting down the same cliff where the previous night's accident had occurred. Jason's world spun as the car tumbled, flipping over and over until it finally crashed to a stop at the bottom. When the authorities arrived the next morning, they found the wreckage twisted and mangled, much like the crash from the night before. Inside the car, they discovered Jason's lifeless body, but something was horribly wrong. His head was missing. Nearby, lying in the grass, was Jason's severed head, its eyes still wide with terror. The police exchanged nervous glances, unable to explain how the scene mirrored the accident from the previous night. As they stood there, the wind picked up, carrying with it an eerie whisper that seemed to echo through the valley. "Confess, or you could lose your head from guilt." The final scene shifts to a TV screen where a newscaster reports the strange and tragic incident. In an unsettling twist, authorities discovered the body of Jason Miller early this morning, who tragically lost his life in an accident eerily similar to the one reported just the day before. Investigations continue, but one thing remains certain. The mystery surrounding these deaths is far from over. Jason's head, now resting on a coroner's table. The head's eyes flicker one last time as the screen fades to black.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more spine-tingling tales. And turn on notifications to never miss an episode.